What's going on, world? DS1 Ross back here on Sheep Stay Sleep TV, Sheep Stay Sleep Live, here with a great brother of mine, my brother Rob, and he has a great presentation for y'all tonight. Africans are not indigenous, or like other people like to say, aboriginal, or I got some questions for the brothers, so this is gonna be interesting, man. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Um, it's all love. We just here to bring facts. My brother did his research, and he's here to present his facts to an argument that's been going on for a little while now on YouTube. You got a lot of people, you know, one minute they African, the next minute they're this, the next minute, you know, they really don't know what they are. So I appreciate my brother going out his way to bring this presentation to us because a lot of us, well, a lot of the presentations I've saw so far um hasn't been complete really. And it's just filled with a lot of conjecture and a lot of emotions. It's not enough facts on it. It's a lot of he say, she say. So I really respect my brother Rob. Of course, he's an educator. So I wouldn't expect nothing less than for my brother to bring facts. So y'all tune in. Um, I will have a portion of the interview where we will be taking questions for brother Rob. Um, I will let y'all know when y'all could drop y'all questions in the box and just tune in and just listen and pay attention to this presentation because it's gonna be great, y'all. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to my brother Rob. If you just coming in, I appreciate if you please hit the like button. Very much appreciated, of course. So shout out to you, bro. Peace.
Man, peace, good brother. Man, I appreciate you having me and everything. And the presentation that I'm about to present, just to forecast it a little bit, it's a scholarly presentation. So what that means is whenever anybody is presenting anything to you, if it's a scholarly presentation, it's going to have references. You will be able to reference it. And then methodology is very, very, very important, especially if you're doing this type of research. What is methodology? It is the way that you come to your conclusions. So with that being said, about me, right? I respect everyone's opinion, you know, but that's about as far as it goes. I would like to have the opportunity to respectfully disagree with you, and we have some intellectual discourse. What I don't like about this ongoing argument, are we indigenous, are we African, um, is the disrespect that's thrown back and forth. If you cannot dispel or if you can't debunk what somebody said and you just call it a lie, you know, that is it's idiotic. It's not wise to, so what? You know what I mean? Like you can't say so what to this because this is a very important argument. Basically what you doing is you drawing a line. Are you African? or are you American? Now, this argument has been going on for about almost 300 years. You know, so what we doing on YouTube, it is not anything new. It is not anything new. You know, I can point to a bunch of people in history that had this argument for 300 years. So with that being said, I I would strongly suggest that everyone do their own research. Now, I'm gonna say this out loud to you, right? You know, and I have to call some names, you know, and it's in a respectful manner, you know. And before I even get into the presentation, I wanted to just to dispel a myth about our good brother and our ancestor Nat Turner, right? Um, who I respect most in the conscious community, our ancestor now, is Dr. John Henry Clark. John Henry Clark told us, he told us, you know, that you have to understand the political meaning of history. So if we look at Nat Turner, you can go to Dan Calloway's page, and he was wondering why, you know, Nat Turner's artifacts have been moved and all of this type of stuff, almost suggesting, insinuating that Nat Turner never existed, right? The laws would change because of what Nat Turner did. You know, for people who not familiar with Nat Turner at all, he had one of the largest slave uprisings in American history, and it was a bunch of casualties. Nat Turner organized a bunch of slaves in Virginia, and they ransacked a bunch of plantations and killed, I want to say the exact number is 61 Caucasians. And this was men, women, and babies. He also killed some livestock, you know. So when he came to your plantation, he killed your cows, your chickens, your wife, your baby, and you know. Now he only admitted to one murder, right? But as the story go, once the militia came into town, right, Nat Turner hid out with the Indians, and then 2 months later they caught him, and then about a month and a half later they executed him, right? So why is his artifacts being moved? Why black folks ain't in America? Why black folks in America not making sure that it's a historical site for us and put some money behind it? So the people who would actually fund something like that, right? They the ones that's moving it. Think, think. They not Nat Turner is not their hero. He our hero, right? So you know they don't have any respect for, you know, the house he grew up in and all of this type of stuff, right? So that's one thing, right? Then you know, the brother made the assertion, why didn't they execute Nat Turner when they found him? Because they would have made him a martyr to the other slaves who were encouraged by what he did. They would have made him a martyr. So what did they do? They held him in court, I mean in jail for about a month and a half, and then executed him and gave him a little trial and everything. But we all knew, everybody knew that he was going to be executed, but they gave him a trial to make it seem like everything was above board, to make sure that the rest of the slaves wouldn't be energized by executing him. It's just like if they would have killed Dr. King after he gave his I Have a Dream speech. You know, niggas in America would have went crazy. Do you see what I mean? You see what I'm saying, D? That makes sense. So this is why Nat Turner, this is why Nat Turner, his the home that he grew up in and all of that was moved and all of that. You know what I'm saying? This is why. I'm hoping that all of that makes sense to the people. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense to you, right, bro?
It makes perfect sense
We have
because
to
it's
understand.
a way. It's always a way to keep us confused and to wipe us out of history. They've been trying to do that. We should understand that that's part of war. Propaganda is part of war. So if if they make us believe something that's not true and removing, you know, certain things that were there, then that will further prove their point, which is what they,
Exactly.
which is what they want initially anyway.
Exactly. But what we have to make sure that we don't do is fall victim to what we don't know. I would just say that these people, because this is a wave. History, I'm about to show you. History, it does not agree. You know, the documents, they don't agree. You know what I'm saying? And so with that being said, one more time before I get into my presentation, I respect everyone's opinion, but the facts are what they are. So now I'm about to start sharing my screen and I'm about to get into this presentation. You know what I'm saying? It's all in love. This is information. I'm not trying to tear anybody down. You know what I'm saying? Because it's information. I'm not trying to tell any. How can you tear somebody down with information? With information. So let me and I'm not gonna be looking at the chat, you know. I'm not gonna be looking at the chat. I'm just gonna flow with my information. If we got some trolls, you know, please, please, you know, as long as they not saying nothing too reckless, please allow them to stay so that they can see. All right. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, you know, the truth it hurt. You know what I mean? The truth hurt. And if it cut me, I accept the truth too. You know what I'm saying? I'm a humble man, but I just believe in telling the truth. I tell the truth on anybody. And so now, getting into the presentation. DS1, you can see my screen. I'm coming through clear. Everybody can hear me.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes,
all right.
I can hear you clear.
So, all right, very good. So the title, Africans living in North, Central, and South America are not, I repeat, are not indigenous. Not. All right. And so I like to clearly define things before I continue. Um, indigenous. The third definition would apply to this argument, but indigenous basically means naturally occurring in that region or environment. So plants can be indigenous. You know what I mean? But it's an innate thing, it's inborn. You know, another name that they use in academia would be a Amerindian, you know, just to make sure that they're making a distinction from the people that live in India, original, right? So, and this word is not a word that we were using in the community a year ago, you know. But anyway, right? Aboriginal, right? Being the first or earliest known of its kind present in a region, aboriginal forests, aboriginal rocks. But this definition would apply if you're looking for a blanket definition, and it's just the Webster definition. I just like to define things, you know, but aboriginal would also state what tribe you in, your customs, your art, you know, your history, your artifacts. You know, it is the people that you are made of, right? So these are my main points of contention that I want to bring out. And let me also say that I feel like the good brother Jabari, he did an excellent job in presenting the facts on if we are African. The good brother Rob Bourne and the History Brothers on MBK, they're doing an excellent job this in this argument, and that
Breaking up,
everybody go and take a look at the information that them brothers are presenting. And I'm
breaking
not
up,
going
bro.
to. Oh wow! I hope that I'm coming through. Dang. I got a hard line. I'm sorry that if I'm breaking up.
All
Um,
right, cool.
but I sound better now.
Yeah, you sound
Okay.
better.
Okay. So I just feel like one more time, Brother Jabari, Rob Bourne, and the History Brothers, they doing an excellent job. And I'm not going to read hash what they've already presented. So my information is somewhat different than the information that they've already presented on their platforms. And I have great respect for those brothers. My main points of contention: we are the same people that Christopher Columbus encountered. I do not believe that. The transatlantic slave trade never happened, or it is told in reverse. Um, that is absolutely not true. What happened to the slave ships? I'm gonna definitely go into that. Um, I'm gonna conclusively prove that we are African, and then when did we start calling ourselves African, and why? So, for the family, if you would like for me to email you this presentation, I have absolutely no problem at all in emailing you this presentation. And so that's why I presented this table of contents. Um, and there it is. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into my first piece of evidence, right? The first piece of evidence that I present: Bartholomew de las Casas. Bartholomew de las Casas was a Spanish historian and a missionary. His dad came with Christopher Columbus on one of the four voyages that he made, and he came back with a little Indian boy, and that was his playmate and his slave when Bartholomew de las Casas was young. So Bartholomew de las Casas ended up getting into the ministry, and he came over as one of those ministers that was trying to convert the indigenous people of America into Christianity, into Catholicism. Um, he helped in the conquest of Cuba, and he was given a royal land grant for his efforts. So he had to have made an impression on the royalty of Spain if he was given a royal land grant, right? But he's seen the atrocities. He's seen the atrocities that were happening to the indigenous people of America. And he wrote to King Ferdinand and Isabella and asked them to stop the Indian slave trade. They were enslaving the Indians here, and they did send a few back, right? But a few, and it was not, that's a false equivalency when you say that they were sending Indians from here over to Africa. That's a false equivalency. And the reason being is because the numbers pale in comparison to the worst the worst crime in history, the transatlantic slave trade. He also influenced King Charles V to sign a law releasing Indian slaves after the first generation. But you see that he said Indian slaves. I want to make sure that I'm pointing that out after the first generation, right? He felt so bad for the Native Americans, the indigenous people of this land, that he said, you know what, man? Y'all should use African slaves. They are soulless. They are soulless. So he's making clearly a ethnic distinction between natives and Africans. The book is right there, you know. But later he admitted that all slavery was against God. And one more time, he made a distinction between Native Americans that were enslaved and Africans that were enslaved. The name of the book, there it is right there, A Short Account of the Destruction of the Indies. It's only about 120 or so odd pages, and it's going to back up everything that I just said. There go the book right there. It'd be the best $20 you ever spent in your life. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So, this is and I'm just trying to go in linear historical order. So that's why I dropped this in here. If you go on Google and you type in King Alfonso the First, the brother's picture gonna pop up. If you type in Mvimba, Nzinga, the brother's picture gonna pop up. The reason for the name change, right? He studied with Caucasians and he was converted. And when he was converted, the Portuguese gave him a new name. So that's why I said AKA King Alfonso, right? So we tend to believe the assertion is made that they were bringing our people from over here and then shipping them after they brought them over here, then they would ship them back from Africa back to North America. All right, so this is what King Alfonso, King Nzinga of the Congo, this is what he said. Each day, the traders are kidnapping our people, children of this country, sons of our nobles and vassals, even people of our own family. This corruption and depravity are so widespread that our land is entirely depopulated. So, what that means to anybody that's listening, they were taking Africans to North America and not told in reverse, actually told straight up and down. I'm not trying to make you think, I'm telling you what I know. King Alfonso wrote this letter to the King of Portugal, telling them that their land was being depopulated. So that's how much slavery was going on. They snatching the sons of kings and vassals, you know? So if the king is the president, the vassals would be the people in Congress snatching their sons into slavery, right? Let me read on. We need in this kingdom only priests and school teachers and no merchandise, unless it is wine and flour for mass. It is our wish that this kingdom not be a place for the trade or transport of slaves. Many of our subjects eagerly lust after Portuguese merchandise that our subjects have brought into our domains. To satisfy this inordinate appetite, they seize many of our black free subjects. They sell them after having taken these prisoners to the coast secretly at night. As soon as the captives are in the hands of white men, they are branded with a red hot iron. Now that should sound familiar. That should sound familiar because everybody know that they branded slaves, African slaves. Let me continue. And to me, before I go to this next slide, this is the most damning. This is the most damning of all of the evidence that I'm probably going to present tonight. All right. It's called Sublimis DEUS. Sublimis DEUS is a papal indiceel promulgated by Pope Paul III, and that's June the 2nd, 1537, which forbids the enslavement of indigenous peoples of the Americas, called Indians of the West and the South, and all other people. It went further to state that the Indians were fully rational human beings and had rights to freedom and private property, even if they were heathen, even if they weren't Catholic. All right? But you can clearly see that Pope Paul III, right? He is saying to them, we have to stop. Y'all have to stop the enslavement of indigenous peoples of America. Why didn't he say other Africans? Because Bartholomew de las Casas is writing at this same time. You see the year? 1537. You see the year? So Bartholomew de las Casas, being in the thick of things, of course the Pope will listen to him. Now, you know, all of this is documented online. You could go over to the Vatican and read all of the papal promulgated encyclical promulgated by this Pope, and you're going to clearly see I got the date and everything for you right there. You don't have to, you know, go into a stack looking for a needle. You got it right there and the name. If you want to, you can pause for a second and slide over to Google and you know, and put in that name right there, Sublimis DEUS, and that's what you're gonna see. All right, and you can clearly see he talking about the indigenous peoples of Americas. All right. So the next point I want to bring up, AD, give me like 30 seconds. Give me like 30 seconds. What you think so far?
Man, I'm learning, bro. I love the fact that you know, like I said, you bringing facts, you bringing literature. You're not just bringing, you know, YouTube videos to back up your statements. You're actually you're bringing real sources. You know, a lot of times when people say they do research nowadays, they just go look at YouTube videos and you know, they use that as a form of resource to support their research, but that's not a real source of information, because all you're doing is you're regurgitating what somebody else has regurgitated that they heard someone else say. So I love the fact that you're actually bringing books and you're bringing real sources to back up your argument. So it's going great so far, bro.
All right, no doubt. No doubt. I just had to send this text message real quick. But let me get back into it, right? So now what I'm about to discuss with the family is called the Black Ledger. Your history teacher ain't never taught you about the Black Ledger? Here go the Black Ledger. What it was a propaganda campaign that the British was waging against the Spanish. Why? Because they wanted to get into the slave trade and they was trying to get the Catholic Church to let them in by any means necessary. So these pictures are somewhat exaggerated. But what I want you to please take a look at it. And I mean, I don't do look-see research. Like I just told you, brother, it was a propaganda campaign, right? But I want you to take a look at the people that are being oppressed in these pictures. And you tell me if you think they look African to you, right? Because what difference do it make? Bartholomew de las Casas, the priest now, said use Africans because they soulless. Why would they take us out of these pictures, out of their propaganda campaign? Right? This,
Because because
yeah,
because like you said earlier, we gotta understand what John Henry Clark said as far as history and politics. We gotta understand what politics really is. See, a lot of people speak on propaganda, but they don't understand that propaganda is the basis of politics. How do
yes,
you think a campaign is ran? It's ran off of propaganda. It's ran off of news and things like that. So they took us out of these they erased us out of certain parts of history for political reasons, for them to be able to say that, you know, they're elite now. That's why they're able to say this stuff, because they've paid people to erase us out of certain parts of history. And we really got to understand that that is the real reason. So we have to stop falling for the okie doke.
no doubt. No doubt. Now, one more time, what you looking at in this picture, right? If you count the bodies that's hanging above the fire, the gallows as they called it, and you can see the soldiers about to slam the baby against the wall, right? If you count the people, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The 12 disciples and supposedly Jesus. That's why they would tie up 13 to to the gallows. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just leaving it there for a second so everybody can see. But yeah, that's why they got the 13. Right? Then you can see, and you can clearly see this woman's facial features that's being hung. You see the baby on the side of her right there? That's his umbilical cord. They hung the baby by the umbilical cord, and you can see that they using the dogs, you know, and there go the priest praying, for the baby to go to heaven, you know what I'm saying? Accept Jesus and go to heaven. Then just more atrocities and everything. Christopher Columbus really was cutting off people's hands. And you can see the brother to the left, him and the sister, both of them with their hands chopped off. Why was their hands chopped off? Because they didn't come back with the right amount of gold. That's why their hands was chopped off. And you'll notice that the people that are being oppressed, they are naked. So obviously, those are the indigenous people. They wouldn't dress like these Europeans, these Spaniards, because they in a hot climate. You know what I'm saying? So of course, they wouldn't dress like them, right? This last picture of the Black Legend, this is Montezuma II, and you can see that they got him at the stake, and he's in fight. He's on fire, and the priest is speaking to him. So as the story go, they asked Montezuma, "Do you want to accept Jesus Christ as your personal savior? Before you die?" And Montezuma II says to the priest, very wittily, he says, "Hey, are y'all gonna be in heaven?" And the priest was like, "Yeah, we're gonna be in heaven." He was like, "Here, light the fire, send me to hell." You know. So a very, very famous story, you know. But I also want to say that a lot of Montezuma the First, he died of disease before even encountering a European. You know, Montezuma the First died of disease before encountering a European. All right. So, which brings me to my next point. And I'm not sure why other scholars on YouTube haven't brung up the Columbian exchange, but this is very vital in this discussion, right? The Columbian exchange, you can go and look it up. It is the transport of one culture in the old world to the new world. And so this, other things were transported, different plants, different animals, different cultures, things of that nature. But this is focused on diseases, right? And you can see the diseases from Europe to the New World: malaria, typhus, measles, influenza, smallpox, chickenpox, whooping cough, the common cold, right? When Europeans arrived, carrying germs which thrived in dense, semi-urban populations, the indigenous peoples of the Americas were effectively doomed. They had never experienced smallpox, measles, or flu before, and the viruses tore through the continent, killing an estimated 90% of all Native Americans. Now, this Caucasian, he did a documentary. The documentary is called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And what he was trying to find out in doing this documentary was, why were Europeans so effective at taking over wherever they went? He wanted to know. And so he narrowed it down to this: guns, germs, and steel. And it's a very powerful documentary. If you're not a student of history, you know what I'm saying? If you watch this documentary and you don't like reading books, you an audio learner, right? Um, I suggest it greatly. It was produced by PBS. I got the website and everything right there. But one more time, um, the name of the documentary: Guns, Germs, and Steel. Now, syphilis. Syphilis is the one thing that they say came from the New World over into the Old World, or Europe, right? A bunch of sailors ended up getting syphilis and giving it out all over the country. They were saying it was a French disease. They were saying it was a Dutch disease. They were saying that it was an Irish disease. So we really don't know exactly, but a bunch of sailors ended up contracting syphilis after first contact. And first contact is the most pivotal point of this discussion. So my next point, and I want to make sure that people following along, right? What have I just told you? I told you that Bartholomew de las Casas made a distinction between Native Americans and Africans. Then I told you that after that, the king of the Congo was asking the Portuguese to stop taking their people because they depopulating the country. And then I gave you the Pope that said, hey, we gotta stop enslaving indigenous peoples of the Americas. Which brings me, we're about to fast forward about 100 years to John Punch, because before John Punch, Africans being brung over here in the Americas, right? Uh, some of them was free, some of them was indentured servants, right? But John Punch was an African who lived in the colony of Virginia. Virginia again, you know, ain't that what Nat Turner was getting down? In 1640, Punch and two other white boys, they ran from their indentured servitude. All three of them was caught. Now, the Virginia Council, so this is the highest court in Virginia at that time, they sentenced John Punch for the rest of his life to be a slave. Now, the two white boys, the two Europeans that was with him, they just got a couple more years. Well, not a couple more years. A couple more years on added on to their indentured servitude. But they didn't lose their natural freedom. John Punch did. And so a lot of historians say that John Punch was the first official slave in the United States of America. And this is significant. It was a brother on YouTube that was saying, "Show me a court case where they said that black folks were slaves." Here go the court case. Here go right here. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to make sure that I bring this out. Why wasn't it? Because we're talking about Virginia. Why wasn't Indians included in the council's decision? If we the same people, you see, if we the same people, why didn't they include Indians? All right. But you can get this information off of the ABS. You know what I'm saying? Uh the ABS it's a historical society, and it tracks aboriginal history and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But the name of the book is called Law and the Cultural Production of Race and Racialized Systems of Oppression. And I'm giving you sources. That's very important. If we're talking about scholarly work, you got to have some sources. All right. So the next, right? This 100 years later. I'm just showing the continuity of this thing, right? His name was Alaudu Equiano. And he wrote a very famous book, Alaudu Equiano, The Interesting Narrative, and other writings. That's how it's going to look now. But the original title was The Interesting Narrative of the Life of Alaudu Equiano, or Gustavus Vasa, the African, right? He was born Igbo, and this is Western Nigeria today. He was enslaved as a child, and he was taken to the Caribbean. Man, slaves didn't even come to North America. They didn't even come. I got a map. I'm going to show you the map. But he was taken to the Caribbean. The Caribbean was a holding area, a staging area. And they shipped slaves out of the Caribbean to South Carolina, to Virginia, and certain parts of Georgia. All right. But anyway.
Quick question, bro.
Yes, sir.
So is that where the people in South Carolina, is that where the term Geechee come from?
Yes. Yes. Geechee, the Geechee people held on to their culture, and continued their cultural practices, and that's why they claim they African they African ancestry. Yes, absolutely. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Absolutely. That's exactly where it come from.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, Equiado, he had three owners. His first owner tricked him. He said that he was gonna let him purchase his freedom. He got transferred to another owner. The other owner sold him to another owner, and then his final owner allowed him to purchase his freedom for what he bought him for. All right. And so that was in 1766. He published his autobiography in 1789, and he became what you would call an abolitionist in Europe. He detailed his voyage on what? A slave ship. He detailed, so, for people who don't believe that the transatlantic slave trade happened, this is a very popular book. And he rode on a slave ship. He talks about the brutality of slavery in the colonies of West Indies, Virginia, and Georgia. And publishing the book, it aided in the political will for the creation of the Slave Trade Act that outlawed slavery all over the world in 1807. It ended the transatlantic slave trade for Britain and its colonies, so-called. So this is another part of the story that we need to make sure that we can clearly understand, right? In the Baltimore area, this is where they had breeding farms. Let me repeat that. They had breeding farms. They bred African Americans in the Baltimore area after the passing of the Slave Trade Act. And they literally sold you down the river. What river? The Mississippi River. Do you see? So this is where that saying comes from. This is where that saying comes from. They sold you down the river. This is where that saying comes from. But Equiano, we know for a fact that he was a Nigerian. He was African. Moving on. Now, I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with this sister, this queen right here, but this is Queen Nanny of the Maroons. I'm not going to go all into the history of the Maroons and all of that. Let's just say that the Maroons were runaway slaves, and that was the title that they gave them. Because again, Brother Jabari, Rob Bourne, and the History Brothers, MBK, them, they didn't already covered this. So I don't want to, you know, but the Maroons were runaway slaves. Runaway slaves. Now, Queen Nanny, you know, she was born around. We don't know exactly. That's what the C stand for, circa, right? Around 1686, and she died around 1755. She's known as a Jamaican hero. What is known about her in history is of an oral history. It's a lot. It's not a whole lot that you can go and find, you know, in text about her existence. But her oral history come all the way from the 1700s. All right. She was born to the Ashanti people, and today known as Ghana in West Africa. She escaped slavery after being transported to where? The Caribbean in Jamaica, right? She led part of the Maroon slave rebellions. I want to say that it was the east side of Jamaica where she led, and then the other side was led by one of her brothers, and she was famous. You know, she was famous because they would use camouflage, right? And what they would do is they would take leaves and branches and put it on top of themselves, right? And they would wait for the Brits to get deep into the forest, and then they'll pop out on them. They use camouflage. You know what I'm saying? That she also was somewhat of a magician, as they said, and so it would be a pot in the middle of the forest, and no fire, but the pot would be boiling, right? And the British soldiers would come past, and of course they'll be intrigued. They'll smell the pot, right? They smell the pot. Everybody know that they gonna die soon. You know what I'm saying? So that was another trick that she used in warfare, right? But because they were so fiercely fighting, in 1740, the British ended up signing a peace treaty, right? So this is a bump grave that I got right there. A bump grave, you know, just showing that she lived, and you know, and that whatever remains they had of her, there's probably there. And you know, also actually she actually lived, and you can see her face. That's on the $500 bill in Jamaica, right? You know what is the bill called in Jamaica? It's called the nanny. Just like if I ask you to give me a sawbuck, right? You know what I'm talking about. If you ask somebody in Jamaica to give you a nanny, they probably gonna look at you like you crazy because you asking for $500. You see what I mean? But anyway, she served as a physical and a spiritual healer, and she's also given credit for the spices that we call jerk. You know what I'm saying? So you know, that's Queen Nanny. But we see right here that she's from West Africa, and she was transported where? To the Caribbean. And my assertion is that the Caribbean was a staging area, right? Barbados, it is widely known that Barbados was a staging area where they shipped slaves from Africa to Barbados, and then to Barbados to South Carolina, to Virginia, and to parts of Georgia. All right. Moving on, Queen Nanny. If you ain't never heard of her, please go and do your research on Queen Nanny. Her story is powerful. And oh man, this is the LIENZA map, right? It's located in the History Museum. It's called Casa de Alfuenque. It's in Pueblo, Mexico. Now, you can see right there, right, that little red box. You see it? You see it, D?
Yes, sir.
I still got you, brother. You see it?
Yeah, I see it, bro.
Okay. So I'm about to blow that picture up for everybody. Everybody see it. You seen the box move, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Lienzo is a Spanish word for canvas. Lienzos were often used for maps and recording migrations, conquests, a town's history, and land boundaries. So this is one of the conquistadors. And you can see everybody, if you look to the left of the map, you will see everybody is at his feet and all of that. It's one of the conquistadors. You can see his sword sticking out. You see the sword, B?
Sure do.
So if you look at the part of the map where I blew it up at, right? You can see that clearly that is an African standing there with an African shield, right? With an African spear. And you can see that the spear is slightly different. The head of the spear is slightly different than everybody else's spear. But then he got a long spear just like the conquistador, right? That's a conquistador in front of him on the horse. But then there go the indigenous people around him. You see the sister behind him. You see indigenous person above him. And then you see some indigenous people below him. They didn't go to the art store and say, "Give me some paint." They made a difference on this map for a reason. Because this brother is an African. He was a Moor that came with the conquistadors, right? And clearly, he's ethnically different than the other people on the map. One of these things just don't belong. It's not a map that you can put in your pocket. This map is 10.5 feet by 8.5 feet. 10.5 feet by 8.5 feet. So it took them some time to get this together. It took them some time to get the paint and get the designs. They probably got their best artisans, and do you see? And the African, they made them racially and ethnically different than everybody on the map. Who drew the map, Brother Rob? The indigenous people drew the map. So they knew they knew the difference between themselves and Africans. They knew the difference. Moving on. Now, I done heard people say, we ain't start thinking we was Africans until the roots. We didn't start calling ourselves African Americans until Jesse Jackson and all this old foolishness. It's just not true, okay? It's just not true. Now, you can see this is the Pennsylvania Journal, May the 15th. What year? 1782. We had Reverend Chicken Wing back in 1782, y'all. You hear me? We had Reverend about to do 2 sermons that night. And we had some Caucasian. This brother had to have been powerful because we had some Caucasians that put an ad in the paper for people to come and listen to him. And what did the Caucasians call them? African American. That's 1782, y'all. Not indigenous American, not aboriginal American, African. You can see it right there. I mean, I'm I don't know. Let me say this. Why? Why did we start calling ourselves African? Why? So Caucasians, they thought they were smart. They said to themselves, if I go and get some Fulani, I can't have too many Fulani in one plantation. So I'm gonna mix it up. I'm gonna get some Fulani, I'm gonna get some Yoruba, I'm gonna get some Mandi, I'm gonna get some Mandinka, I'm gonna get a couple of Fon. And so if a Fon man and a Mandinka woman have a baby, what tribe would that baby be a part of? What you gonna call him? You gonna call him a Mandinka? You gonna call them a fun? So that's why our ancestors start calling themselves African. That's why we called ourselves African. Do you see? If you from Angola and I'm from Congo and we have a baby together, to not take away from any other tribe, we just called ourselves the continent. And we called our babies and ourselves African. Very simple point, easy to understand. Easy to understand. Moving on.
Makes sense. That's like if you have a child. The child just don't
Mm-hmm,
belong to you as he not just your son, he's your wife's son also. So
mm-hmm,
it
mm-hmm,
makes sense. So at the end of the day, he's y'all's son.
mm-hmm,
So it makes sense.
mm-hmm. That's why we start calling out, man, you don't even know what tribe you from. Exactly. Exactly. The baby got a fine daddy and a Yoruba mama. That's why we called ourselves African. But fast forwarding, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, from the beginning, I'm just trying to go in linear order, right? David Walker's appeal. I'm not sure why other scholars have not brung up David Walker's appeal, but let me just say in the title alone, right? David Walker's appeal in 4 articles, together with the preamble to the colored citizens of the world, but in particular and very expressly to those of the United States of America. David Walker was born a free man, right? But he was writing to his brothers. You see what I mean? He was writing to his brothers. Now, I don't think I done read David Walker's appeal. I can't remember him mentioning any indigenous tribes in there. You know, he was an abolitionist, he was an author, he was a sailor. He was a member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Ain't that ironic, right? He was calling for Africans being enslaved to rise up against their oppressors in 1829. Historians argue that he inspired Nat Turner's rebellion. It's an argument, but I mean, it kind of line up, a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, Walker's appeal fueled new laws banning the enslaved to read and write. That was only in a few colonies, only in a few states. But after Nat Turner's rebellion, oh, it was blanketed. You know what I'm saying? It was blanketed. Nobody can read and write. Do not educate these Negroes. Now, the reason why David Walker called them colored, right? Like I told y'all, this argument has been going a long time, right? And so, um, Henry Highland Garnett, David Walker, all of these different people had their different arguments, and David Walker was one to go with colored instead of African. All right. All right. So that's the only reason he said colored citizens of the world. All right. But I got an excerpt from the article, and I know all y'all can read, but just for dramatic purposes, I'm gonna read it. This day I say, when I view retrospectively the renown of that once mighty people, the children of our great progenitor, I am indeed cheered. Ye further, when I view the mighty son of Africa, Hannibal, one of the greatest generals of antiquity, who defeated and cut off so many thousands of the white Romans or murderers, and and who carried his victorious arms to the very gate of Rome. And I give it as my candid opinion that had Carthage been well united and had given him good support, he would have carried that cruel and barbarous city by storm. But they were disunited, as the colored people are now. Sound familiar, huh? In the United States of America, the reason our natural enemies are able to keep their feet on our throats, beloved brethren, here let me tell you, and believe it, the Lord our God, as true as he sits on his throne in heaven, and as true as our Savior died to redeem the world, will give you a Hannibal. And when the Lord shall rise him up and give him to you for our possession, O my suffering brethren, remember the divisions and consequent sufferings of Carthage and of who? Haiti. Carthage and Haiti. Why would he reference Carthage and Haiti? Because he talking to our brothers. Hannibal is in what is now known as, Carthage is in now known as Libya, right? And Haiti, because he was referencing what Toussaint Louverture and them had did down there in Haiti. So if you don't want to look at the ancient story, look at this, somewhat new story in Haiti. I mean, you know, that and he talking to the people who are being oppressed. He talking to our brothers. How would the Native Americans know about Carthage? How? How would they know? Moving on. Another quote from David Walker, our powerful brother. I declare, it does appear to me as though some nations think God is asleep, or that he made the Africans, but nothing else but to dig their mines and work their farms, or they cannot believe history sacred or profane. Those are the words of David Walker. Moving on. Now, oh man, I'm gonna try to be as respectful as I can. Show me the slave ships. Show me the slave ships. Right? This is in the Calumet River, not too far from my house. It's a broken down ship. It's 55 years old, y'all. 55 years old. The transatlantic slave trade happened. The transatlantic slave trade happened in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. Look, if you're looking for a slave ship, you're not gonna find it. They done did archaeological digs. Those boats not gonna be in pristine condition. And then what was they moving? What was they moving on the boats? Illegal cargo after 1807. They moving illegal cargo after 1807. Please understand that. So what you think? What you think? They gonna put the boat up for prosperity so that you Negroes can prove that slavery happened? Come on, man. That's just that's just the weirdest and the most craziest question. Where the slave ships at? Come on. This boat is 55 years old. It's made out of wood. In 10 years, the boat ain't gonna even be there no more. Come on, man. I just had to address it. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, they say it ain't no silly questions. All right, so that's why I had to address it. I said I was gonna try to be respectful. But come on, man. I mean, I can't even believe I had to even waste a slide on that, man. All right. For people who looking for slave ships, though, the last slave ship may be found. They started, and the reason why I said may be found, right? Because they just started the dig at the beginning of this year. It's a whole story behind these two brothers, these two, I don't want to call them brothers, these two Caucasians right here, William Foster and Tim Meir, right? They made a bet. They made a bet that with somebody that they could go to Africa and bring some slaves back. And once they get back and once they successfully get back, they burnt the boat up. It's called the Clotilda. Now, the professor who is in charge of the archaeological dig is a maritime, so that means like, you know, dealing with boats, dealing with the sea, archaeologist. That is his profession. That literally what he stay. He just not no regular archaeologist go and scratch rocks and carbon date those. No, he focuses on ships that sunk and the history of those, right? Professor Cook and several other experts at the wreck all agree that the remains match the historical records of the slave ship. This story was broke by CNN. There it go right there. All you have to do is go to CNN website, and if you just type in slave ship, you're gonna find the Clotilda. There you go. You know what I'm saying? Now everything that I done showed you so far, it got a source. This not Brother Rob trying to disparage the indigenous people of Americas. Am I disputing that some of y'all might have Indian blood and that you can trace your roots all the way back to a tribe here in America? I'm not disputing that at all. You know, there are exceptions to every rule. But please understand something. I will never, any serious researcher will never throw out the exception for the rule. I'm never gonna do that. I'm not gonna throw out the rule for the exception. I'm never gonna do that. It would not be wise to do that. All right. So most of the slave ships went to the Caribbean anyway. Most of the slave ships went to the Caribbean anyway. That's not exactly true. Okay? This is a true map. Where did this map come from, Brother Rob? From the Chamba people, from the Wolof people, from the Fulani people, from the Mandate, from the Mandinka, from the Fon people, from the Bakongo people, from the Igbo people, from the Yoruba people, from the Monday people. All of those people and they historians and they griots, right, are the people with their records that make this map. Take a good look. Take a good look because it comes from African and African American historians. It was corrected. It was corrected. Oh, we got to update our information. Oh, it's been updated. It's been updated. Okay? You can see Barbados. You see that right there? Where it say 31,000? The French Caribbean? All that? Yeah, it's been updated now. Go do your research. I did my research. All right. So we got documented. Please look at the legend. Documented. In Sierra Leone, the progenitors of my family come from the Senegambia area. The progenitors of my family come from the Senegambia area, right? And documented. They have 209,000 ships that left West Africa, and ended up in the Americas over a protracted period of time. All right. So, you know, for people who don't believe and all that, you don't have to believe. I'm not trying to get you to think. I'm trying to get you to know what happened to our people. I'm trying to get you to know. Forget thinking. You know what I'm saying? Forget thinking. You know, I know. I know because I trust where the information came from. One other thing that most historians don't bring up, Elamina Castle. It's located in Elamina, Ghana. It was built by the Portuguese in 1482. Ironically enough, the iconic picture of the Last Supper, it was painted in 1482 as well. I just wanted to throw that in there. This is a fun fact, you know what I'm saying? Because this is a culminating event, you know what I'm saying? That is probably one of the biggest propaganda tools in world history, that Last Supper. And it was painted the same year that Elamina Castle was built. That first picture at the top in the left, that is referred to as the door of no return. And what that meant was, if you go out that door, you weren't coming back. You were going to be put on that boat and you was headed to America. Now, this castle is heavily fortified. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the gallows of the cannons. Oh, they got something for you, fam. Run up on that castle. Give me them slaves back. Yeah, let me see you. Yeah, let me see you run up on this castle. Do you see what I mean? Now, this was the first of 36 slave posts built in Ghana. Built in Ghana. How many fortified slave posts did they have in the Americas? Why would they build 36 slave posts in Ghana if they taking slaves from North America to Africa? Why would they do that? All 36 of them ain't on the coast. They built inland. They built inland. So, you know, again, history disagrees with that assertion that the slave trade is told in reverse because of the 36 slave posts in Ghana. So let's recap real quick. First, I gave you Bartholomew de las Casas. He made a distinction between Native Americans and Africans. Then Pope Paul III, he forbids the enslavement of indigenous peoples. But, you know, as I told you, las Casas said, use Africans because they soulless. In that edict as well, Pope Paul III also says that he recognizes indigenous Indians as having souls, right? So for more proof positive of that, John Punch is enslaved for life, right? Then I showed you the indigenous people that were depicted in the Black legend. And if you notice, none of those oppressed people, even though it was a propaganda campaign, right, were African. Then I showed you the Columbian exchange, right? Documented history. 9 out of the 10 people were killed during the Columbian exchange by disease. Then I gave you Equiano, who wrote about the transatlantic slave trade and made a point to point out the differences between British enslavement versus American chattel enslavement. Then I gave you Queen Nanny, Equiano, John Punch. They all knew that they was African, right? Then for y'all, for people who still don't believe, right? How do you explain the LIENZA map? How do you explain that, right? Then let's look at David Walker, right? I gave you David Walker and his references to Hannibal in Haiti. Why would he use Hannibal? Because he was an African. Why would he use Haiti? Because those were Africans. And then if the slave trade is told in reverse, why would you build 36 outposts in West Ghana? Why not build them here? All right. So man, D, this is where I would you know, ask you to weigh in so far, brother. I mean, that's pretty heavy. That's pretty heavy for any aboriginal indigenous person to try to pick up and explain away. Wouldn't you agree, brother?
Man, definitely, definitely. From what I hear so far, I mean, it's they're gonna have to come. They're gonna have to come with they. They're gonna have to really come prepared, man, because everything you dropped, you stated its source and everything. And you just didn't go on a Google search campaign. You didn't go on a YouTube research campaign. You really bought actual books, actual professionals and all of that. So, man, like that shit is deep, man. Especially when they showed the African, that African on on that LIENZA map. That was crazy, and you could tell that that's an African, not just because of their color, but the type of weapon he had. His
Type of
his
weapon he had,
yeah,
the
the,
way
the
he was
spear.
dressed, and the
Hmm.
spear and the shield. It's all African.
Yeah, that was ill. That was ill. That
Okay.
was ill.
Well, I'm not done, brother. I'm not done. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of want to go into because I want to make sure that they understand. I did my research. I listened to hours and hours and hours of they look see research. I listened and at best, it was circumstantial. So what they literally do is show you a bunch of pictures, make a bunch of assertions, and don't have any sources. So when you looking at historical pictures, not to say that pictures don't tell a story, pictures obviously they tell a story, but it's four areas that you need to stay focused on when you looking at these pictures. It's not feel good, you did. So the point of view of the artist is very important. Next, the context of the picture. And so clearly we can see some of the context in the black legend that I showed you, right? And I shared with you that it was a propaganda campaign and that some of the pictures were um exaggerated, right? But um context is key, right? Next is the audience. They're painting it, right? But they clearly have somebody in mind that's going to look at it. And of course, you want to make it aesthetic to their eye. You want to make it look good to them, right? And then last but not least, the purpose of the picture. The purpose of the picture. So the LIENZA map, like I showed you, and I told you, LIENZOs, they have a purpose. They show land boundaries. They show history. They show who in control. They show who were there. Things of that nature. Purpose. So Look-see research. Look-see research. I know y'all done seen them. They put black folks picture right next to them Olmec heads. Huh? So that's me. I'm messing with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm messing with you. But you know, some of them Olmecs, they do look African. But then, you know, you can see this indigenous brother right here. He from Guatemala. You can see he sort of look like them Olmec heads too. Right? This his son. The guy I just showed you, he's one of the people that were on the archaeological dig that invited Van Sertima down when he wrote that book. They were here before Columbus, you know what I'm saying? They came before Columbus. I'm sorry, they came before Columbus. This is his son right here. Right? Now, this is slave auction, right? Christopher Columbus, he took some people back with him on his first voyage back. So this is a depiction of them when they at court. Let me see. Now you see the brother in the middle right here? That's supposed to be Christopher Columbus. I hope everybody can see my little arrow. That's Christopher Columbus. These are some of the men that was riding with him and everything right here. These are some of the men that was riding with him right here. And then these three young ladies are the ladies, and then it's a couple other young ladies. I cut the picture off. It's a couple of other young ladies. But you can look at their hair. You see their hair, right? Their hair don't look African. It was raining in Chicago today. I know if some of the sisters got their hair wet, they'd be mad than a mother. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is a picture of that slave auction. So am I being disingenuous? Some Indians were taken back to Europe. And these were some of them right here. These were some of them right here. Right? This is an artist's depiction of Christopher Columbus' second voyage. Right? I mean, you know, clearly these people are different from Christopher Columbus, bringing them trinkets and stuff like that. You know, they look copper colored, I guess. You know, but then so do the Spanish. They sort of look like the same skin tone in this picture. You see the problem with look-see scholarship? Yeah. There go another book. These supposed to be indigenous people on this picture right here, you know. But this is an artist's depiction. You know, they didn't have cameras in 1505, right? It's a water painting by John White of indigenous people. They look copper colored to me, huh? There go another depiction. Now you could say that, man, he got curly hair, he got a fro, and this was a propaganda campaign, you know. This was a propaganda campaign. They was looking for some funding because they was like, man, these Indians giving us hell, you know, and they was just showing that, you know, they scalp people and stuff, you know. So they might have tried to make them look a little more fierce in the picture. You know, you know, guess that, but we don't know that for sure, right? This is a caste system that the Spanish use, and they still use it widely in Brazil to this day. But I just wanted to point out that they definitely had us on there. You see it? Negra right there. So, you know, you can see it's only pale skinned women in this thing right here. So this woman right here is pale skin. What happened to my arrow? That woman pale skin. That woman is pale skin. Both of them are. And then this woman is pale skin. Other than that, you know, the woman right next to her too. Other than that, all the other women in this picture are copper colored. But they not Negra. Want to make sure that I point that out. They not Negra. They not Negro. And this is a caste system. This the caste system that that they created, and they use it in Brazil to this day, right? Peter Martra, he's another historian from that period, primary source. I just brung this up to point out where he's talking about people's hair, right? The men's hair is long; it reaches down to their waist. Women's hair are even longer and is wavy, right? Um, Members of both sexes tie their hair. They are beardless. DS1, unfortunately, you're not indigenous. You got a really big beard, bro. Yeah. But
That's
but
why these indigenous people always want to smack my beard, huh?
right. But I just wanted to point out that he's making a distinction, right? That their hair is long, that the men wear their hair long, right? And that's a first-hand account, 1511, 1530. He got some other interesting things to say too. Peter Martre, a historian from that period, first-hand account from that period. He would what you would consider a primary source, right? Not a secondary, not somebody telling you about it, but secondhand, but somebody that literally lived at that time and seen the people, right? This is an unnamed Native American, don't have no name. But this was during the Civil War. You can see that brother, man, he darker than me. You know what I'm saying? He darker than me. And he got his feathers up. There you go, his feathers is up. Mm-hmm. Then Native Americans during the Civil War. You see the brother on the left? He pretty dark right there. He pretty dark. He darker than me. Hmm. And then you have some Native Americans that joined the Union Army too. This is very, very important. It's a very important point I want to bring out, right? Native Americans primarily fought with the Confederacy because the Confederacy had promised them a state of their own. Hmm. I wonder why no abos ever bring that up. But anyway, they also fought on the Union side too. You know, I don't want to be disingenuous, but they primarily fought with the Confederacy because, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I had to throw this in there though. We weren't conflicted during the Civil War. We weren't convicted. You know, we weren't mixed up on which side we was gonna fight on. Right? And a bill that I did on my channel, right? I literally tell you that it was about 180,000 Africans who decided to sign up for the Civil War and fight with the Union. Why? Why would they fight with the Union? Because they were going to abolish slavery. That's why. Frederick Douglass and Martin Delany and Harriet Tubman, they was all hollering at Abraham Lincoln like, hey, Joe, let us in this fight. We'll win the war for you, bro. We motivated, bro. We weren't conflicted. We knew what side we was gonna fight on, the side that was gonna free us, goddammit. So ain't no confusion. This is the 54th. Glory, you know what I'm saying? The movie Glory. Yeah. This is the 54th right here. Man, I wouldn't want to see any of these brothers in no dark alley. You know what I'm saying? These brothers look like they was serious. You know what I'm saying? But moving on. There go Chief Iron Bull and his wife. You know, Chief Iron Bull, man, copper colored, burnt copper shit. And brother dog. But you see how long his hair is? You see how shiny it is? This directly after the Civil War now. Directly after. Here go a Cherokee young lady, right? 1888. Library of Congress is where the majority of these photos come from. This is a Matapuni young lady, 1900s right here. Looks sad. But you can see her hair. I don't think she had no perm. But you can see her hair though. Baby Jack, he was a Cree Indian, dark skin, dark skin. Looked like dreads almost. They put Lil Wayne picture next to Baby Jack a lot of times. He got some Caribbean young men, look like they about in their 20s. What I notice, and you know, I'm doing some look-see research myself, right? They muscle tone. Man, they don't have muscles like Africans, you know what I'm saying? They just don't, man. Muscle tones. And you can see both of them brothers got that hair. You know what I'm saying? They got that good hair. They ain't got that backwoods nigga hair like me, you know what I'm saying? I gotta brush my shit, man, as much as I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? I love myself, you know. I'm joking around. I love myself. You know what I'm saying? On the real. But
And one thing I noticed,
uh-huh.
too with the pictures that you showing, I'm noticing the our facial structures are a lot different too.
Yeah.
The way,
Phenotypically, yeah, we are somewhat different. Go ahead, brother.
yeah, I'm just me looking at the pictures, for the men and the women, like um African men and women, like we have a certain type of facial structure, and you could see the difference when you showing the pictures of these Indians.
Hmm.
Looks nothing like us.
Yeah.
We
But
we
clearly,
we, we
brother,
look totally we look totally different. The
yeah.
way our
And I
faces
just
is structured, our hair, everything.
mhm, mhm. It's trust me, man, it's a purpose and a reason why I'm showing these pictures. And I just wanted to make sure that they understand, you know what I'm saying? Anybody that is under the aboriginal indigenous claim theory. And I'm not trying, I don't know the politically correct term to say, you know what I'm saying? But you know, anybody that believes in that way, I'm showing you copper colored people, you know. This a Ute couple of the Great Basin. You know what I'm saying? You can see the sister. She is, you know, considerably darker than the baby, and then her husband right there. You know, he looked like he happy, looked like he proud, but his hair is straight. It's long. It stick out over the top of his little bandana. You can see that, right? You know what I'm saying? And the baby, you know, thing that typically you're definitely gonna see it in babies. You know what I'm saying? Because the environment has not affected them, and so you know, that's why the baby. I'm assuming that that's a girl. I don't know for certain, but um, as she gets older, she'll definitely get more color. Her melanin will definitely kick in. You know, but then Curly Johnson. Another very prominent picture that these Aboriginal, Indigenous, Native American thinking Africans use all of the time. He was an Iroquois. This is 1904. You know, me and him probably about the same complexion. And then Blackfoot Indian Winnipeg Jack. Winnipeg Jack. And everybody can see the brother is dark and his feathers is up. You know? Yeah. You can see the TPs and the typical TPs are in the back. You know what I'm saying? And this is a picture that they show all the time. They say he looked like James Brown. You know what I'm saying? To me, he sort of looked like the Redskins logo. But that's me, you know what I'm saying? Then Chief Weasel Tail, Blackfoot Indians. Clearly, even though the photo is black and white, you can tell that he is dark skinned. You know what I'm saying? That he is dark skinned. But his hair, now, do that mean that his feathers are down or are they up? I don't know. You know. But then here goes some Mayan women. They from Antigua, Guatemala. You can see in their skin that is somewhere reddish. You know, she got melanin. She got the cha-cha-cha nose like Jews, but it's rounded. It ain't pointed like Jews. It's long, but it ain't pointed like Jews. And they claim that their ancestors are Mayans, you know. Now, this is very important. St. Paul's Indian Industrial School. This is a middle church, and this is around 1901. And so what this was, they were trying to fully acclimate Native Americans into American culture. And they sent them away to Canada for finishing school. And then when they came back to America, they would be Americanized, so to speak. These are the descendants of the Inuit people and the Métis Native American tribes. These are some of the oldest recorded Native American tribes, right? I want you to look real good at these kids. It's 1901 now. Real good. Look real good. Now we got a couple of $5 Indians in the picture. All right. So there go a $5 Indian right there. Oh, one of these things just don't belong. Here we go right there. There we go right there. Here go another $5 Indian. There we go right there. Then, you know, we got another $5 Indian, another $5 Indian. And then the two young ladies on the end, these are definitely $5 Indian. You can tell they look European. You can't even see that girl face because she's so pale. You know, the apron that she got on, the dress that she got on, it's the same damn color almost. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But this is the old, and I just don't see any copper color Indians in this picture. And these are some of the oldest recorded tribes, right? So, look, right? This is just the truth. The truth is a lot of people that go along with aboriginal, indigenous, Native American thought are really just ambivalent. Ambivalent is the state of having mixed feelings or contrary about something or someone. You heard your grandma say that y'all got Indian in y'all family, and so even though you kind of know that DNA is invaluable in determining who you are, you won't accept the science based on something that you heard. So, you know, you can't debate science. You know what I'm saying? Because science is something that is observable and it's provable, right? You know what I'm saying? And I just can't see how, you know, this argument can go past DNA. You know, now I'm not a scientist. I study history. So that's why the majority of my presentation is about history. And I don't bring up DNA and all that, because that's not my area of expertise. You know what I'm saying? So-called area of expertise, right? But then perception, right? Perception is immediate. It's intuitive recognition or appreciation of a moral, psychological, or aesthetic quality. It is your insight, your intuition, your discernment. It's a matter of perception, right? So remember, I told you, D, and this is where I need you to unmute yourself because y'all know I'm an educator and everything. So I got to give you a test, man. All right. This not a pass or fail test, okay?
Cool.
But DS1, I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm not trying to embarrass you, brother. You know what I'm saying? But I gotta give you this test, okay?
All right, cool.
All right. So it's a book that I suggest to the family. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? And it's a powerful quote from the author. He is Caucasian. His name is Stephen Covey, but I feel like the book is a good read. Quote goes this: we tend to believe that we see reality as it is, but the truth is we see reality how we are. So here go the test, good brother. You ready, D?
Yeah.
Okay. So the sister in the top left-hand corner, beautiful sister, ain't she? She beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your girl around. I don't want to get you in no trouble. Right? But where do you think this sister from? Where is she from?
Shit, she look African American.
She look
So,
African American.
mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, what about the people in the chat? Where you think this lady from? A, where's A from? Where is she from? All right. She a news reporter from China, DS1.
Wow. Wow.
Okay. Look, see research. You see the problem so far, right? B, right? B, the brother in the middle with the grin. You know what I'm saying? It looked like he just hit the lottery, right? Where you think he from? Where is he from?
Um, he definitely looked like he's from like somewhere in Africa
Somewhere in
or
Africa.
Haiti.
The brother's name is Jean Gregory Sabat. He's the first African descent elected official in Russia. You can look it up. But yeah, he a politician from Russia. Right. Okay. What about the elder in the corner over there? C. You see him with the blue on.
Yeah.
The elder. Where you think? Where you think the elder from?
Somewhere in the Caribbean. You look like he's from
In
somewhere
the
in the
Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Okay. He an elder from the Dogon tribe in Central Africa. Yeah, man. I'll set you. This the setup, bro. All
Yeah,
right. What about? Go ahead, my fault.
now I was gonna say now I'm starting to understand the quote.
Yeah. All right. What about the sister right here with the maroon scarf and everything? You know what I'm saying? Got the high cheekbones, the round African nose. She got the waterfall behind her and everything. You see who I'm talking about, D?
Yeah,
Where is she from?
I don't know. I don't even know.
Man, you gotta give me a guess, man. Give me a guess,
All
man.
right.
Give me a guess. Any guess. It's all good.
Shit, Dominican Republic.
Mm,
I'm gonna just say something different.
yeah. She a news reporter from Iceland, bro. She a writer and a news reporter. She live in Iceland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey. What about E? You see him, the brother with the hoodie on, got the chain, standing behind the projects, them projects that he's standing behind. Where you think he from?
He from here. Shit.
Mm. He a poet. He a poet from France. He a teenager. Well, he not a teenager no more. He probably like 20 something now. Yeah. Yeah. In the bottom left-hand corner, the lady, she holding the baby. You know what I'm saying? Sun in her eyes. You see, she got her eyebrows low, like, what? You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where's she from, brother? Where's she from?
Shit, she probably from here.
She
The way
probably
this
from here.
that's been going, she probably from here.
She from
Southern.
southern India. She from
Mm,
southern India. That's where she from. She got the big hoop earrings. That's what. That's why you thought she was from here. You see the big hoop. You like, oh. You know what I'm saying? She got to be from here. Nah. She not from here. All right. So, I know my students they hate this test too. You know what I'm saying? You know, because I'm like, man, you can get out of detention if you guess right. All you got to do is guess one right. You know what I'm saying? So this a presentation that I give in detention. It's a part of my perception presentation that I did. But anyway, G, right? You know, clearly the sister is a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where this sister from, man? She fine. Where's she from?
She is. I have no clue, bro. Haiti.
Yeah. She from Australia, brother. She a
Damn,
health professional from Australia. She's a doctor from Australia.
damn.
Yeah.
I definitely be in detention.
Yeah. So you can see the problem with look-see research, you know, and you know, this is where I get down to the bottom line, the nitty-gritty. This is where the rubber meet the road, so to speak. Now, everything that I done shared with you so far, that's all been documented, sourced, cross-referenced research. That's what it been, right? But what I'm about to say now, and then I get back into some documents, is my opinion. In my opinion, this Aboriginal claim is disrespectful to the people who fought, bled, died, marched, had dogs sicked on them, had fire hoses released on them, bombed while they was going to Sunday school, hung in trees, and then have everybody buy tickets to come see them get their genitalia cut off. Um, it is disrespectful to our ancestors who then did all this work for us to have the ability to be on YouTube talking reckless. It's disrespectful to them to claim bloodline or ancestry of anybody else. Our history is that great. Our history so great that somebody else tried to erase our name and put their name on it. You don't believe me? All you have to do is go and read our ancestor George G.M. James' work. That's all you have to do. Our history is that great to where somebody stole it and put their name on it. If you don't know your story, you can't know your glory. Here go the bottom line, y'all. Cherokees, they owned slaves. In the 1780s, certain white Virginians began to aggregate for the termination of the Jingansing Indian Reservation in Northampton County. If I'm mispronouncing it, charge it to my head, not my heart. In 1812, it was argued that the place is now inhabited by as many black men as Indians. This is where the free blacks were living. The Indian women, and as you can clearly see, they're making a distinction. Black men as Indians. The Indian women have many of them married black men. Hmm. Hmm. I wonder what they was so attracted to us by. And a majority probably of the inhabitants are black or have black blood in them. The real Indians are few. The reserve was divided, allotted in 1813, and by 1832, whites had acquired most of them, most of it. This is an excerpt from a book, Africans and Native Americans, The Language of Race and the Evolution of red black peoples. Oklahoma's black Indians and their hundreds of thousands of descendants are among those who have left a legacy of records, from the Dawes Roll to earlier records created after the Treaty of 1866 was signed. In addition, until the middle of the 20th century, there were Black Indians, freedmen, who still lived and practiced the customs of the nations where they had been born. So to try to clarify this statement, like I said, the Cherokees, they owned slaves, right? During the Civil War. After the Civil War, right? That's when the Cherokees made blacks fully fledged Cherokee, and they were referred to as freedmen. And they was referred to as freedmen. So they weren't Indians. They were owned by Indians. And after the end of the Civil War, instead of trying to reacclimate into a society that they knew it was going to be backlash, they decided to stay on the reservations with the Indians because the Indians had some sense of freedom and autonomy from Caucasians. Now, for people who are always talking about, oh no, they owned us, so that they can get us out of white folks' hands and they treated us good. This is Sarah Wilson. Sarah Wilson was a Black woman who decided to stay on the Cherokee reservation after the Civil War. And keep in mind, after the Civil War was over, they said we was free, but they didn't give us no land. They didn't give us no money. They didn't give us no reparations. So how was you going to take care of yourself? Right? So it made sense for us to stay on the reservation. This is a direct quote from Sarah Wilson. Before freedom, we didn't have no church, but slipped around to other cabins and had a little singing sometimes. Couldn't have anybody show us the letters either. And you better not let them catch you pick up a book, even to look at the pictures, for it was against a Cherokee law to have a Negro. Cherokee law, Negro. You see the difference? Have a Negro read and write or to teach a Negro. This was the law of the Cherokee. It was a law, a Cherokee law. White folks didn't come on the reservation to tell them how to run their camps. The Cherokee decided to treat us this way. And Sarah Wilson, God bless you, our ancestor. Thank you for this quote. So that maybe one of these people that's claiming aboriginal, claiming indigenous can see what our people went through. And I'm connecting these dots for you.
So, so before you go ahead, bro. So basically, a lot of the indigenous tribes adopted the same practices as the white folks, and they treated us. They treated us just like white folk treated us.
Exactly, brother. Now, was it some Cherokee that was probably benevolent slave owners, just like it was some Protestants that was benevolent slave owners? Just like that. Just like Thomas Jefferson so-called fell in love with Sally Hemings. Just like that. So it was probably a few that didn't beat you and all that, but keep in mind, right? They were having children with their slaves. Slaves. Not that you part of the tribe until after the end of the Civil War, right? We, brother, are not indigenous. That Black man standing right next to that indigenous man, they are both Cherokee. We are not the same. Not the same. Not. Native Americans in the 5 civilized tribes, and I already know, I shouldn't say already know. I know that it was more than 5 tribes. I know that, right? But for the sake of this discussion, Native Americans in the 5 civilized tribes sometimes owned African slaves. The Cherokee freed their slaves in 1866. When was the Civil War over? 1865. When was the Emancipation Proclamation written? 1863. And gave them, and let me back up. The Cherokee freed their slaves in 1866 and gave them full tribal citizenship. These former slaves were called freedmen. Many freedmen lived as Native Americans through the ensuing years, having adopted their culture and languages. Today, freedmen face roadblocks in tribal enrollment. Well, let me keep reading. Since proving their bloodline depends upon the 1906 census that called the Dawes Roll, which excluded freemen. This proof of bloodline is very important since it's required to qualify for a certificate of degree of Indian blood. The CDIB and tribal membership entitles the holder to the Native American monies and benefits. A few years ago, some of these freedmen tried to go get them monies and benefits. You know who stopped them? Indigenous American, Native American Indians. That's who stopped them. And I know they not Indians. I know they don't like being called aboriginal. That even Native Americans don't like being called aboriginal. You know what I'm saying? They don't even like being called Native American. You know what I'm saying? But they are the ones who is blocking us from that money, not the US government, them. And you can see the little African baby with the Native American family right there. They felt bad for us. They seen what they open enemies was doing to us, and they were kindred spirits after the end of the Civil War. But before the Civil War, they enslaved us just like white folks. Dr. John Henrik Clarke so eloquently put, you have no friends. Now, again, brother, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scientist, right? That's not my expertise. I study history. I teach Black studies after school, at the school that I work at, and I do my best to try to teach our children what happened to us in history. But what's wrong with DNA? What's wrong with it? At AfricanAncestry.com. Hey, DS1, you know who AfricanAncestry.com? Do you know who it's owned by?
Nah, not at all.
Oh, okay. That's who it's owned by right there. The brother, the brother, his name is Rick Kittles, right? And then the sister, her name is Gina Page. Dr. Rick Kittles is the doctor. Obviously, he's behind the research. And Gina, she does the advertising and marketing and promotion and, the everyday ins and outs of the company, right? I have he is right now working at the University of Chicago, and he's doing some groundbreaking research, right? My suggestion to the family, right? If you have time and this is something that you into, the brother is very motivated to use genetics to investigate our ancestral story. He's very motivated. So if you want to listen to the brother lecture and see some of the tests that he used before he started claiming that he could trace your ancestry back to Africa, please go on YouTube, right? And listen to the brother lecture. Watch his body language. You clearly see that this man is motivated by trying to find our story. Nothing else. Not money. Not money, but science. He using science to investigate our story. And so this would be like the only YouTube, you know, source that I would give you, because to sit down and read his dissertation, that probably, wouldn't be feasible. You know what I mean? By the time you get halfway through it, you probably won't be interested anymore. You know what I'm saying? So sitting down and listening to him lecture about the science, how he came up with it, why he's doing what he's doing, and then reading his body language. You know what I'm saying? Because if you think about it, if somebody tell you that they love you, but they all frowned up, you're not gonna believe them. So that's why I bring up body language. You know what I'm saying? You will see that this brother is dedicated to finding our story using the science. I just want to know what's so wrong with, you'll come up with 5 tests. If you take 5 tests, you know what I'm saying? All 5 of them gonna say 5 different things. I would rather go with the brother. Why would he tell me wrong? The man gonna make money anyway. They just give him funding to continue to do his research. They just give him funding to continue the research. And then let me say out loud that they mapped the human genome almost over 10 years ago. So yeah, is the science new? It's relatively new, right? But it's solid science. It's solid science. So I got more slides, but I think this is where I need to stop it. You know what I'm saying? Because like, man, I feel like I'd improve my point to the point where if you still got questions after this, if you still don't believe after this, right? It's a matter of perception. I'm not gonna tell you what to believe. I ain't gonna tell you what to think. Because if you want to walk up the street and fall in that hole, and I'm telling you it's a hole there, and you go fall in it, man, I ain't coming to get in the hole with you, fam. I ain't gonna do. You know what I'm saying? I'm just simply not. I'm gonna let you continue to believe what you believe. I give you some rope to try to pull yourself out. You know what I'm saying? But I can't go fall in with you, man. I just can't do it. You know what I'm saying? It's a couple of things that I wanna continue to build on. I can do a part 2 because I didn't bring up other people's stories. I could have brought up Omar bin Saeed. I could have brought up Abdul Rahman. I could have brought up Abdul Delio. I could have brought up all of them. These are all Africans that got very famous stories from the slave trade. So after today, we should not be talking about the slave trade didn't happen or that it happened in reverse. And if somebody say that, then just point them over here to Sheep Stay Sleep TV so that they can see the proof and go look it up themselves. Again, I'm not here to make you think. I'm here to make you know, right? So I end right here with the words of our illustrious ancestor. He says, I am not African because I was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in me. Nkrumah knew who he was. It was a reason why he was working with the brothers in America. Africans don't want you there. Man, don't listen to these dudes, man. Don't listen to these dudes. So that's where I'm gonna end that right there, bro. I got a couple more slides, but I'm more than good. You know what I'm saying? I'm more than good with what I done presented. Let me go back and stop sharing my screen now. Yeah, but I'll be willing to take questions, or whatever else, or just see what you thought of the presentation, and are you convinced that you African?
Um, First of all, I want to say thank you, bro. I appreciate the excellent presentation. It's heavy, man. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of sources um that people can go and check out. Um, I definitely believe that I'm an African for sure. You know, I don't I don't kid myself. You know, so you know, I'm not gonna fool myself. You know, some people, they allow certain things to fool them. I'm not gonna do that. But my brother's taking questions now. If y'all have any questions in the chat for the next couple of minutes, we'll be taking questions. And my brother gonna answer some questions, and then we're gonna let the brother go. I know it's getting kind of late. So if y'all got any questions in the chat room, if y'all got any questions for Brother Rob, put it in the chat now. I saw some people earlier in the chat room asking, was we taking questions? We're taking questions now. Put your questions in the chat, family, and the brother will he'll answer them to the best of his ability. But I definitely love the presentation, man. Like I said, I learned a lot, man. Sure did. And I'm gonna actually watch I'm gonna watch the stream over too, just so I can you know really grasp the the point that you was making too, because I saw in the chat room earlier some people were saying you was jumping from point to point. I just think that what you had an overall premise that you was trying to prove, and to me you actually proved it. You proved that Africans are not indigenous. We're totally two different people. And actually, these indigenous or aboriginal people, what I'm saying, they had Africans as slaves. And I've heard, I heard JT say that before. He said that numerous times, that they even made us slaves for them. And so it's very ironic that you brought that part out too. And you know one thing I did want to say, as far as the freeman thing, um is that a reason why a lot of the people who's claiming to be indigenous or aboriginal today is not able to receive those benefits because of that 1906 census?
Yeah, it was called the Dawes Roll, right? And so he was just fully trying to eradicate Native Americans and Native American culture out of America, right? And so he counted them up, and and he was just trying to take land. It was a land grab, right? But you know, the Africans who were living as Indians on their reservations after they were given their freedom after the end of the Civil War, right? Everybody knew that they were not Indians. Everybody knew that. I'm not trying to say that again that we some of these people can trace their aboriginal roots or indigenous roots or Native American roots back to, but that's because a lot of Native American women were going with black men. A lot of them were, what I'm saying, and that's heavily documented. So by blood, some of us are, but we got here some kind of way. And how did we get here? We got here through the transatlantic slave trade. Here's another, glowing point. right, that I didn't bring out during the presentation, and I had a lot of information, and so I might have been hopping around. I apologize, right, for people who wasn't following along. I just need to become a better presenter, right? But if we're Native American, if we are people of this land, right? Why didn't we run away from slavery? Why we just didn't pull up from the plantation and go and hide with the Chickasaw? We would have been able to make our way because we would have known the land. And then think about it, right? Let's say, for instance, you a white man and you got a Chickasaw as a slave on your plantation, right? Guess what you just did? You just declared war against the Chickasaw Nation. You see what I mean? So every night, you sleeping with one eye open, looking for them. You know what I'm saying? If you got a Cree Indian on your plantation, just one, that's a slave. You got to look for them to come. You see what I mean? They coming. They brother, they sister, they on your plantation. Why didn't we run away? We could have ran away. The reason why it was so advantageous to use Africans as slaves was because unless you had a boat to go back across the Atlantic, you wasn't going nowhere. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense because that's literally the reason why they kept it going with African slaves. It's the reason why.
Wow. That's you got a question in the chat. It says, however, what what was the aim and purpose of the presentation? How should we use this information today? Shout out to my brother Gab on the question. He's saying, what was the aim and the purpose of your presentation, and how should we use this information today? Basically, how would this information be useful to us today?
Absolutely. I've stated this several times. Um, Cultural identity, to me, is one of the biggest issues in the Black community, the African American community today. You know what I'm saying? And so by erasing some of these barriers that we put up, you know what I'm saying? Because this is how I view it, brother. The Creator, He made you an African. When you came out of your mother's womb, you were an African. You choose to be aboriginal. You choose to be indigenous. You choose to be a Hebrew. You choose that. You choose to be a Muslim. But you don't get to choose that. You don't get to choose that. And so by all of us using a blanket title of African, we should start working together through cultural identity. Cultural identity has to be the foundation so that we can get our political science together, so we can get our military science together, so we can aggregate our resources and try to find a way to join our people in a powerful way. When our people was together, man, we did some powerful things. I don't want to say that we all walked hand in hand, step to step, right? But we all agreed that we had an open enemy and that we was gonna work together, love it on each other, and just do what we needed to do in order to get some results. And that's how we would use this information. I was using the information to dispel the myth that we are aboriginal, and I feel like it's divisive.
No doubt. No doubt. Anybody else have any more questions? Put it in the chat now. If y'all have any more questions for Brother Rob, anything, any issues y'all have with his presentation, put it in the chat. And I agree with you. I've always felt like, you know, this whole African versus Aboriginal thing has definitely caused a lot of division in the quote unquote this YouTube conscious community. It's caused a lot of problems, man. You had a lot of people threatening people. It's really gotten out of hand. So
Yeah, I literally was going back and forth with a brother, and he told me, I don't unite with idiots. He literally said that to me. I don't unite with idiots. I was like, well, I guess you don't. I mean, because I don't consider myself an idiot. You know what I'm saying? But I guess you know, that's one of the problems that I see, that it's so strongly believed that we Aboriginal, indigenous, Native American to this country that we unwilling to unite with each other unless I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, where history don't back it up.
right. JT had a question. Shout out to my brother JT, the underrated darkness. He says in the 1930s, did the Cherokee Indians stop reparations from Africans?
Uh no, that was the late 90s, where they had made the freedmen I'm talking about, they descendants had made that aboriginal claim, and they tried to go and get some of the monies and benefits, like I said in the presentation. I can't remember the exact year. I want to say it's 98 that they made that claim, and the Native Americans are the ones that blocked them. It wasn't the United States government. It was the Native Americans that blocked them. And they said that you don't have enough Native American blood. I'm paraphrasing, but literally they said you don't have enough Native American blood to be considered a Cherokee or a Choctaw or a Cree or whatever it was that they was claiming. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. That was my whole thing with the whole this whole Aboriginal indigenous argument. Like if you are that and you can trace your roots back to that, then why aren't you inheriting the things that come with being that? I've asked that question so many times, and so many people has blamed the American government.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't actually do the research and know that it was the actual Native Americans who said that. It wasn't the goddamn United States government.
Exactly.
It was them people saying you're not a part of us.
Exactly.
So in other words, that's just like the white man saying, nigga, you can't drink out this water fountain.
Literally, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
The same thing. You know what I mean? Um, one other thing that I want to point out, you know, this whole presentation one more time. All I did it for was to bring out some of the things that Brother Jabari, Rob Bourne, and the History Brothers might have not covered. You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole heap, I mean, it is a plethora of information that you can go and research that's going to prove that we are African. You know what I'm saying? I just pointed out some things that nobody else had talked about, like the Columbian Exchange, for instance. Somebody had mentioned it to the brother Ali, and then he just glanced over it like, you know what I'm saying? Nah, get out of here with that. You know what I'm saying? But that's factual evidence. They got factual evidence. So that's all I was trying to do. Bring out the points that I felt. So a lot of stuff I took out, you know what I'm saying? Because Rob Bourne had covered it, you know what I'm saying? Because the History Brothers had covered it. Because Brother Jabari had covered it, you know what I'm saying? But I left in the LIENZA map, You know what I'm saying? I left that in. The History Brothers had did the LIENZA map. I left that in, you know what I'm saying? Because I felt like the visual evidence, because they always using so-called visual evidence, I left that in just to prove a point. You know what I'm saying? When you do see research, sometimes it backfire. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Mm.
We got another question. Shout out to you, sis. She says, so how did our grandparents know they was Indian?
Uh, um, Man, sister, my grandparents, you know, I can speak for my family. Again, I'm on the side of, we were brought here and then we were acclimated into Indian families. So that doesn't necessarily make you an Indian, you know what I mean? Your grandparents, they probably lived in my people. I didn't say it on YouTube. My people from Greenwood, Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly how they pronounce it, Mississippi, right? And we from an area where the Egypt plantation is located. You know what I'm saying? So I'm oriented to look at the facts. You know what I'm saying? These are the facts. Um, a large majority of the Native Americans that lived here were killed during the Columbian Exchange due to disease. Then the remaining Native Americans, uh, you know, took on Africans after they got here, maybe after they finished serving they indentured servitude. Um, Maybe somehow they were able to purchase their freedom. Everybody that came over here that was African, they were not slaves. Everybody that came here were not slaves. And so what I'm thinking is maybe your grandparents, because it's an exception to every rule. I'm not making a sweeping generalization and saying all of us, right? But the overwhelming majority of us are African, uh, uh, you know, through and through. You know what I'm saying? Maybe your ancestors, specifically, sister, again, were acclimated into Indian culture, and probably through admixture, you know, your grandparents was under the assumption that they were Indian. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. Just like, most of our children believe that they're just American. And it's because of the customs that they got used to. They don't really know the history.
Mm-hmm.
Because my grandmother, she told me that her grandparents were Cherokee Indians.
Mm-hmm. It's
You know.
plenty. It's plenty of people that make that claim. I would just suggest, um, you know, just to end all speculation, that you go to africanancestry.com and trace your roots. We just so happen to have family Bibles and family history that leads me back to the Senegambia area. And I know the progenitor of our family that came over here. He came over here as a free man, as a fur trader, and was literally snatched into slavery. You know what I'm saying? I know that for a fact from my family, right? But you know, I can't say that for everybody family. You know what I'm saying? Um, um, I just flipped over to the chat, and I'm looking at Gab Talk Media, and he was trying to understand. Am I saying get a DNA test so that we can unite? Not necessarily a DNA test, but what I am saying is that if we use the blanket term African and unite under that. You know what I'm saying? Leave all your other affiliations at the door, right? We are African, and so because you are African and because you are oppressed just like me, I view you as my brother. Let me help me so that I can help you. You know what I'm saying? Interdependence on one another. And we literally got I believe that we literally got everything that we need. This is the most educated generation of Africans in North America in the history of the world. So we got everything that we need. We got money. We got educators. We got everything we need. We simply need to work together. That's what I'm suggesting. And if we work together and put some of this decisiveness down, you know, don't come through the door talking about, hey brother, we can't work together unless you aboriginal. Hey brother, we can't work together until you know, accept Jesus as your savior. No, no. Let's work together so that we can feed our families. Let's work together so that so that you got a business, you can provide a job for my son. You know what I'm saying? When he get out of college, he can come and work for you. You know what I'm saying? So to try to clarify the point, it's not about the DNA test. It's about us all under that one blanket term, African.
Great point. Great point. Because I've been saying that lately too. You know, if we all unify under the one premise of that we're black, and we start with that and work with each other just on that alone, I feel like we can make, great progress, because the white supremacists of the world, they work with each other under that premise.
Absolutely.
The premise is we are white supremacists, and our goal is to stay on top and to keep everybody else being slaves. So we can argue later. Let's focus on keeping our slaves in order, then we can argue.
Mhm.
So we definitely need to unite under one premise, and I agree. I believe our premise is the same.
No doubt.
So any other questions in the chat? If there are there any other questions in the chat? We'll take a few more questions.
Man, I see the good brother Haven Bullets in the house, man. Peace, Haven, man. I was I was worried, man, because it was a lot of brothers that I respect in this community, and I just wanted to make sure I did a good job. So peace to you, good brother. I hope I hope I didn't do nothing to damage the Black First move.
You make that claim and the DNA doesn't match up is because a little while after slavery ended, a lot of blacks got kicked out of the tribe, but still kept their identity. Oh, okay. Okay, Haven. Because I noticed a lot of people have been, being real conflicted with this DNA stuff. So that's something to think about right there, Haven. Good looking out, Shug. Thanks a lot, Watanya. Appreciate it. No doubt, Gab. No doubt. So, any other questions? Any other questions? Um, Gab says, does this conflict with the Black First movement?
Um, I don't think so in any way. Um, I think us claiming to be indigenous, that definitely is a huge uh, roadblock to uniting. You know what I'm saying? Because we need to have some sense of tribalism. It's a book. It's written by a Jewish guy's name is Joel Cotlin. The name of the book literally is called Tribes. You know, and if you read the book, you will see why I say that we need, like, just one unifying title to go under. You know what I'm saying? But man, really good book. It's probably like 320 pages, 40 page, about 340 pages. But Joe Cotlin, um, makes an some excellent points. But you know, he talk about all the tribes. He talk about the Arabs. He talk about the Europeans. He talk about Mexicans, Spanish. He talks about a lot of different ethnicities. But you know who not mentioned? Us. The reason why he don't mention us is because we not united, and because we don't present a united front, we're not a threat. But you know, uh, I don't think it conflicts at all. I believe it strengthens it actually. You know what I'm saying? That we need to unite under a moniker, Africa first, and from there, you know, we everything else should flow. You know.
Definitely, I agree. I definitely agree. And just to bring this up too, I did a show a while back. I think you was on it too, brother Rob. It was called "The Crab Mentality versus the Ant Mentality: Blacks versus Jews." Jews and other, ethnic groups, they have an ant mentality.
Mhm.
If y'all ever watch ants, pay attention to ants. A lot of times we just step on them in our house, but when it's a lot of them, pay attention to how they move. Pay attention to how they carry their food. Watch the movie The Ants. Some people, they may take these little movies that they children watch and, take them as just, you know, they don't take them serious. But if you watch the movie, they're telling you how ants live in a kingdom, how they eat, how they defend themselves, everything. And a lot of other ethnic groups think and move as ants, while us Africans move as crabs. We want to tear each other down. We want to find a reason to always be divisive against each other. Where these other groups have this this um this united mindset. Like, listen, we're going to unite under this. Jews, you are united under the fact that they are Jewish first. Period. That's what they're united under. And every other ethnic group is united under the same banner. Black people are the only ones that are not like that. We're separated through religion. We're separated through every little thing. We find a reason to be at odds.
Mhm.
So we need to figure out what concept are we gonna unify under? And we should unify first, like you said, under cultural identity. And that we're Africans, we're black. You see? And this is why they don't mention us, because they know at the end of the day, oh, they not even focused on the fact that they can just be powerful if they unify under all of them just being black first. If they just unify under that, they could do a lot. These other groups understand that. But that's why they invest in our division, because they know if we unify under that first, man, in a couple generations, we'll be running this shit. They understand this. This is why they pay to keep us separated. This is why they pay to keep feeding the propaganda machine to get you from separating from being black, from being African, because that stops the unification. That keeps separatism going. We can't do shit separated. Nothing. Nothing. You can do something as an individual, but collectively on a world scale, we're still at the bottom of the totem pole. We're still looked at as nothing but measly consumers, slaves, people who go to work every day, buy shit that we don't make, and go back and just work. Work and consume, work and consume, work and consume. We don't produce anything. And we're not the producers because we're not unified. We're not. You see, even a lot of the Hispanics woke up to that factor. Why you think they're leading in a lot of jobs that black people used to run? You go on a lot of these construction sites now, you gonna speak to a Puerto Rican or Mexican. He's your boss.
Yes, sir.
He's your boss. Why do you think that's so? The black guys used to come in and put up all the scaffolding and prep the whole construction site. You got Mexicans for that now. Whole teams of them. Why is that? Because we didn't unify and lock down the industry. So these Mexicans came along and they're unified. I watched them come. I'm down here in North Carolina. It's a group, it's a whole group of these Mexicans that come down here and work on construction sites. They bring these Mexicans in here on a bus, brother Rob, because they pull up the Walmart and they go buy their food and shit. It's about 100 of them.
Right, right.
That they shift here to work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for no other reason. That's why they're here, to get the money.
Exactly. 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 And everything they do is unified. That's what we need to get into, man. So if y'all could check that stream out too, it's on my channel. The ant mentality versus the crab mentality. So I just wanted to touch on that too.
Yeah.
You know?
It was one thing. I was just flipping through the chat. I probably can't see it all the way to the top, but it was somebody that said, why would they build the slave post in Ghana at Elementa Castle? Why did they build it 10 years before first contact, 1492? So they built Elementa Castle in 1482, right? This is lost in history. The Portuguese have found a way to sail to India from Europe. And how they did it was they went down the west coast of Africa, past the southern tip of South Africa, over to India, right? So the Portuguese have found the way to India. You know what I'm saying? And so this sped everything up. You know what I'm saying? They needed those slaves to continue the coastal trading that they was doing, and they needed that post right there because they was already getting money with Africans already. So that's why it was 10 years before first contact. You know what I'm saying? That was like the halfway point from Spain to South Africa. You know what I'm saying? In Ghana, Elementa Castle was built 10 years prior to. I don't know. I just be trying to look at the way that other people are looking at it. I know that they probably wouldn't go have no come to African movement today. You know what I'm saying? They just go, fall on their knees and say, "Oh, I'm an African now." You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, all the information that I presented is sourced. You know what I'm saying? So, you can't debate pretty much anything that I brung up. It's nothing to debate. You know what I'm saying? And I brung up my main points of contention. I seen the fraud department said that I was jumping all over the place. Maybe I just need to do a better job of presenting the information. I just felt like people was following along. You know what I'm saying? I knew what I was thinking, but maybe I just need to be a little bit better next time.
Nah, I don't think so. I think, when that's just a point people like to make in an argument to try to discredit you. That's all that is.
All right.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. Well, yeah, I try to stay humble about it, bro, because I know I ain't got everything figured out. You know what I'm saying? So I just try to stay humble about it. But I mean, my intention was to emphatically prove that the only way we could really claim Indian heritage is by admixture. You know what I'm saying? By marrying a Indian woman or marrying an Indian man and, thereafter having a child. That would be the only way. You know what I'm saying? We're not the same people.
With Tanya in the chat, she said, can you email her the presentation? Is
Absolutely.
her email is watanyaking@gmail.com.
Absolutely. I get it over to you tonight, sis. I get it over to you tonight. Hey, one quick question before I send you this information, right? What you gonna do with it? What you gonna do with it? I think that's a fair question. What you gonna do with it?
You see what she put in the chat?
Oh, I'm gonna type in the email now. 1 second, let me see. What she putting in the chat? What she say?
You put research it.
Oh, I bet. That's what's up, sis. I'm about to email it to you right now as we talking. But
Is there any more questions for Brother Rob before we close out? Any more questions for the brother?
well, if it's no more questions, man, DS, man, I appreciate you having me, brother. As always, man, you know, I enjoy us getting down like this, and I look forward to it. You know what I'm saying? The next time.
No doubt, bro. You know my platform is always open for you, man. You my big brother, man. You my educator. I
Ah,
definitely learn a lot from you, bro. So, you know, you always welcome over here, bro.
man, that's love, bro. Appreciate you.
No doubt. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Um, Everyone who has tuned in and that's still tuned in, I definitely appreciate it. Make sure y'all go and subscribe to Brother Rob. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel. Um, just type something in the chat real quick, Brother Rob, so they could jump on there and they could subscribe to you, you know, so they could stay in tune whenever you go live also. Um, it's very much appreciated. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Um, I will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what time, but I'll definitely be doing a live stream tomorrow. And also tomorrow, 7 p.m. Tune in. Underrated Darkness. We got the sports show. It definitely had to be postponed, but tomorrow, 7 p.m. Tune in on the Underrated Darkness channel and tune into our sports show that we do every week. Very much appreciated. Make sure y'all go and subscribe to my brother Gab Talk Media. Also, check us out on Gab Talk Media. Um, he just did an interview with Brother Rob. Um, you also got an interview with me. So go and subscribe to him. Subscribe to my brother Uncle Shug also. Also subscribe to my brother Haven Bullets. You know, he always keep the fire going. But make sure y'all subscribe to No Sleep Enterprise. He had a powerful show earlier. It was 8 hours. But it was some good information. Like the last couple of hours, it was very good and informative. So y'all go check that out too, man. I appreciate all the love and support y'all got for me, DS1 Ross, and Sheep Stay Sleep TV, man. I'm very, very much appreciative. So y'all have a good night. Remember, y'all, we gotta heal before we build. Heal before we build. And cultural identity is a form of healing. A lot of us don't know who we are. And that's why we're acting the way we're acting. We're doing the things that we're doing because we don't understand who we are and what role we need to play. So cultural identity is very important with us in this struggle that we have dealing with each other. So make sure y'all tune into this presentation. It's powerful. Catch me on the next one. I'm your host, DS1 Ross, repping Sheep Stay Sleep TV. Everybody enjoy your day. Stay safe. We out. Peace.